Hey there, fam. Welcome back to Even Tacos Fall Apart, the podcast where we dive deep into real life stories, unraveling the complexities of mental health and exploring the incredible human spirit's resilience. Today, we have an episode that hits close to home for so many of us: chronic pain. You know, those persistent aches and discomfort that make even the simplest tasks feel like climbing a mountain? That's where we're going today. Now, I'm sure many of you can relate to this, whether it is your own journey or that of a loved one. Chronic pain can truly be a relentless companion, impacting not just our bodies, but also our mental well-being. It's a battle that many face silently, and today we're shining a light on it. I'm joined by guest Barby Ingle, who is not only a fellow warrior in this fight, she's taken it to a whole new level by becoming the chief of staff of her own medical team. And she's here to share her incredible journey with us. I promise you this is a story of hope, courage, and transformation. Before we dive into this inspiring conversation, a little reminder: you are not alone in this journey. No matter what challenges you face, there's a community here that understands and supports you. Connecting with us is pretty easy. Just head over to tacosfallapart.com. You'll find links to Discord, Twitter, Twitch, and more. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's embark on this journey together. Stick around till the end because I guarantee you'll come out of this episode with a heart full of inspiration and a newfound perspective on living with chronic pain. Without further ado, let's jump right into our conversation with the incredible Barby Ingle. What do you need? But that's okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Mental Health Monday. Really appreciate you being here today. Hope everybody's had a good start to their week, and I am excited for this conversation tonight. We're going to be talking about chronic pain and becoming chief of staff of your own medical team. And with me tonight to talk about this is Barby Ingle. She is a best-selling author and reality personality living with multiple rare and chronic diseases. She's a chronic pain educator, patient advocate, and president of the International Pain Foundation. She's also a motivational speaker and best-selling author on pain topics. Her blog, reality shows, and media appearances are used as a platform to help her become a patient advocate. And she presents at healthcare conferences, speaking publicly, sharing her own story, and educating and advocating for patients across the globe. She's received more than 25 awards for her advocacy efforts and currently serves as the reigning Mrs. Southwest Petite USA. So I've got some socials for you, and I'm going to put those into the chat. But Barby, thank you so much for being here with us today, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. This is my first time ever on Twitch. And I'm glad to be here with you and share with your audience, and hopefully they get a lot out of what I share, and look forward to learning from them as well if they have anything to add in the chat.
Yep, absolutely. So we do have a question queue open. If anyone wants to ask a question, feel free to type in !Q, follow with your question. I'll make sure that we get it asked, or just put it into the chat and I'll ask it here while we're live. So just to kind of get started, one thing that wasn't necessarily in your bio, but that is on your website, is that you started cheerleading and dancing and gymnastics at age 4. So what sparked your interest in each of those, and what about them kept you going?
I have a severe learning disability. And when I was very young, my parents would try to get me to catch a ball or ride a bike or do things that were physically active like my older brother and sister were doing, and I just wasn't able to do it. They'd throw a ball at me and they would just smack me in the face or hit me wherever. My arms didn't move to react.
Yeah.
And the psychologist that my parents had me going to suggested that they put me in dance and gymnastics and cheerleading so that I could learn some of those physical life skills that we all need to get through life. And I absolutely loved it. I saw cheerleaders. My dad took me to a soccer game when I was 4, and I saw cheerleaders out on the field and how they commanded the crowd. And it was a soccer game, so it's not like a traditional cheerleader, that we think of right now. But this was back in the 70s, and I said, I want to do that the rest of my life. And they said this would be something really good to get her active and get her arms and legs working. And absolutely did help. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a good thing that they put me in those classes and got me into competitive sports through cheer and dance and gymnastics.
Yeah, that's really cool. So kind of learning the coordination bits of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it didn't come very easy for me. It took a lot of practice and trial and error and making mistakes and really having to practice extra hard. The first day that we would be learning a new routine or a new cheer or dance or skill, I would do very poorly. And I would have to come home and spend extra hours practicing it and looking at myself in the mirror. And we didn't have videotape machines yet, so I couldn't do that. But as I got older, we started using videos. And now when I'm learning something, the first day or two, I don't do as well as once my brain starts processing it and learning a different way to learn whatever it is that I need to learn. And when I do that and I use all my senses to learn, it helps me remember it and learn it and physically perform it better over time.
Yeah. It's neat because that is something that I talk about with my kids a lot. It's like, if you're not understanding it one way, let's figure out a different way to describe it or absorb it or practice it or something like that. And it's, both of my kids, they're unique from each other. Like, they don't learn the same way. They don't react the same way to different things. So, yeah, you gotta find what works for you. And it sounds like you did that.
Absolutely. And I still have to do that now. And I've learned that it's okay. Yeah, I don't have to take on the stress or guilt or shame of not being able to learn as fast as somebody else.
Yes.
I know that I will get it. I just have to find another way. And
Yep.
I just don't stop. I keep going until I accomplish the goal.
That's really good. The drive is really good.
Absolutely.
So now you're an advocate and you lived with chronic pain. Do you still have pain on a daily basis?
I have my pain managed. I still do have pain, but typically it's between like a 3 or 4 on a typical day. When we have a storm coming through, it can go up to like a 6 or 7. But if I come out of remission, which happens if I am injured, then my pain can go up to a 9 or 10, where I'm vomiting from the pain, passing out, spending the day in bed with blackout curtains, that type of thing. So I definitely have good and bad days. And since I started getting proper treatment, which took a long time to get and figure out, that's why I had to become the chief of staff of my medical team, and I push other people to do the same for themselves. And once I did that, started getting better care and being able to manage everything I was facing a lot easier.
Absolutely. So what's your favorite thing about being an advocate for those with chronic pain? And what are some of the biggest challenges of being that advocate?
My favorite thing is seeing that I'm making a difference in humanity, and that even the smallest tool that I can share with somebody or thing that I've done in my life can spark an idea. And when you see that click in somebody's face or in their eyes, like, oh, I could do that too. Oh, all I have to do is break this down and I can figure it out. Or, oh, that's a great way to start a conversation with the doctor. I'm going to try that at my next visit. That just gives me all the good feelings, like, oh, I'm fulfilling my purpose on earth when I help other people and give them those tools. The hardest thing to deal with is the hate.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants help. And in the beginning, I was like, I'm going to help everybody. The hardest thing was learning that I can't help everybody, that there's some people that don't want help, or they think that I'm asking them to do it my way, and I'm not. I'm just trying to spark or plant a seed, a spark of lightning, whatever it takes to get them to be their best advocate and to be the chief of staff of their own team and do it their way. And so some people think that I want everybody to do it my way, and I really don't. I want everybody to get the help that they need.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's I like that it's not I like that it's not everyone, but I hate that it's not everyone. It's not one size fits all. Everybody's going to have a different solution. And you're right, not everybody wants that help or will accept that help. And that's really hard. That's really hard to come to grips with. What was your first experience with that?
With helping someone else?
With having that resistance from someone.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Well, I got a little bit going into a support group. One of the support group leaders, after about a year of us attending, she announced to the group that it was about a 10-year-old group. So we had been there like a tenth of the time that these other people have been there. When I say we, my husband and I, so where are we? Ken and Barbie. And in that support group, there was people that had been there for way longer than us. And the leader of the group said, I've been praying for someone like Ken and Barbie to come along. And it just made everybody else in the group feel like, well, what do you think we've been here for 10 years doing?
Yeah.
And so it's not a competition. It's not, to me, I didn't need her to say that to the whole group because it alienated us from the group. And it made it more of a competition of well, what are they doing? We could step up and do something different. You never asked us to step up and do something different. And so that was the first time. But even the first meeting we attended in that support group, we had other patients come up and say, well, what do you do for treatment? And I started sharing and they go, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, that's the wrong things. It's
wow.
Well, that doesn't work for you.
Yes,
that,
right.
You know, you need to take ownership, and it needs to, when you do find something, it needs to be an individualized thing. You can have the same exact disease. You can have genetically the same parents, but 2 different treatments. Well, they're the same treatment will work totally different for both of you. So you really have to work on individualizing your treatment, knowing all the things that are available out there, but then building what is right for you as an individual. And so going through some of that in the very beginning of advocating was tough to learn, but I did learn, we all are individual. And if it works for me, it might not work for you. If it works for you, it might not work for me. And that's okay. It's not, hey, everybody, you have this disease, do this. It doesn't work that way.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And that's the way with a lot of healthcare in general. It is not one size fits all. It's never one size fits all. That's
absolutely.
It's tough to kind of face that and realize that.
It is. And then but that was the first time I experienced the hate. The worst was a group, I call them a gaggle. There's about 8 women and they came together and they just decided to start harassing me and got me to the point of wanting to commit suicide. Like I was I'm done. Why am I advocating? Why am I on earth? Do I suck that bad as a human being? That's how low I let somebody else bring me down. And I had to come back from that. And I got a lawyer involved and we went and got restraining orders and such. But it literally took me from I'm doing good and I'm helping people to you can't help the world, so you're not good enough. And I started buying into that. Yeah, I started buying into that and had to realize, okay, I'm not here to help everybody. It's okay if what I have to offer doesn't help you. And or if you have something to offer me and I've tried it or I am not comfortable trying it, there has to be a boundary there. And I'm okay with that boundary. And I'm okay if somebody else tries to put guilt on me. Now I will grab the invisible guilt and I will put it away from my body. And doing that physical motion helps me deal with the mental aspects of advocating and the good and bad that come with it.
Yeah. What were they against? What was their deal?
Oh, I don't quite know. I know that a lot of times if you're a doer, which I am a human doer, some people they feel like I'm doing too much, or if you really have pain, how are you able to smile?
Yeah.
And my dad would ask me that growing up, so I was ready for that kind of question of, when your team is losing 50-0, it's not about winning the game, it's about winning the moment, and you keep cheering and you keep smiling and you keep going because the game's not over. And when I got chronically ill, I said, okay, I had to change my thinking from a physical world to a mental world and making sure that mentally I was doing okay. And I had to say, to what is a win, and redefine a win, and redefine moments on earth. Like most people have a 24-hour period. I live moment to moment, and some are bad and some are good and some are okay. And I don't get stuck and just let myself stop. I try to push through what I'm afraid of and keep going. And I think that just making that mental switch from being a physical cheerleader to a mental cheerleader, and knowing that I can smile, because when you approach things positively in my world, I'm able to get through it a little bit easier. Even if it's a sucky situation, I'm able to get through it a little bit easier.
Absolutely.
So to me, that's important. Yeah.
Yeah. And
mental health Monday, it matters.
It does.
Like, how we're doing mentally can affect how we're doing physically, and vice versa. So getting that under control. Not going into the doctor's office crying every time saying, fix me, but what can I do to help myself?
Yeah. Well, and you have to be able to communicate with other people. And if you're trying to do that through pain, sometimes you have to smile through it a little bit and put it into a different perspective and say, okay, I've been here before, or I've been in worse places, or I've been in better places, but here's how I'm dealing with it today and in this moment. I think that that's really, really important.
Yeah. And sometimes a doctor, I see a comment, sometimes a doctor will not believe you or make you feel like they don't believe you. And I've had a doctor walk in the room and say, I know what you're trying to do and you're not going to get away with it, and turn around and walk out. Never examined me, talked to me, tried to understand what I was going through. So I definitely get that. And they're not all going to get it. And maybe that's not the right doctor for you. Or maybe you can stay and teach them something over time. So, it depends on what you're up for and what you're ready to approach, and how you need to get through the situation so that you can be the best you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Auntie Chi-Chi said, so much that my old doctor used to tell me he didn't believe my pain experience because I was so functional, as though I had a choice to be otherwise. And that's how I felt. So when I was first diagnosed with depression, chronic depression or major depressive disorder, whatever the actual diagnosis is, my therapist at the time said, you are severely depressed. You are going through some profound things. I'm not sure how you're making it every day. And I said that I have no choice. Like, I have kids. I have a job. I have to provide for them. I have to provide for my family. I have to make it from day to day. I don't have a choice. Like, I just have to push through. And so pain is your response to pain is very different from person to person. And for some people, they wouldn't be able to make it through some of the things that other people are able to make it through. And it's just, you got to believe when someone says they're in pain, you need to believe them.
Absolutely. And it could be physical pain. It could be mental pain, emotional pain. You have to believe the patient. Whatever, not even necessarily a patient, anybody who tells you, like, oh, I'm having a tough time at this, believe that they're having a tough time at this. Yep. You can think back on yourself and go, it's really hard to admit that. It's really hard to say, hey, I'm not a perfect human being and I'm having trouble. If someone's willing to say that out loud and ask for help, believe them.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
It's that simple.
Yep. So Bite Mark also asks, what is your favorite poem?
Oh my goodness. I wrote a poem called Spirit, and it's my favorite poem, but I can't even recite it back to you. My memory is not that good. But maybe I'll post it online.
Yes.
I don't have
absolutely.
Twitch, but I'll post it online.
You can send it to me in our Discord message, and I'll share it with everyone. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I've published 9 books, and growing up with a learning disability, I was told I would never graduate high school, to not even think about college, and just try to get through high school if I could. And a principal in elementary school told me that. When I graduated high school, he apologized. Yeah, he apologized when I graduated high school.
Oh, that's really good, actually.
And I graduated in college in 4 years. I was the first one in my family to graduate college in 4 years. In my last semester, I had a 4.0. So I just take longer to learn, but I'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
But I forgot the question.
We were talking about you were talking about that you've written 9 books.
Oh, yes. Yes. So I published 9 books, which is an accomplishment from someone who has a severe learning disability. But I felt compelled to write them because so many patients were asking me similar questions. I was like, there needs to be a book out there for this. There needs to be a relationship book, how to keep your relationship with your partner strong. There needs to be a children's book. I have 7 nephews and a niece. I needed to have a stronger relationship with them. My 4 older ones, we didn't know how to talk and have that conversation, that communication. With the younger 4, we wrote this book, and they all had been read the book since birth. They were read the book. And so when Aunt Barbie comes to visit, they know what to do and how to interact and how to make it a more pleasant experience for us, both, for the whole situation. And my relationship with the 4 youngest is amazing, and the 4 oldest is almost non-existent. That even one of my nephews was on a live chat and doing video games, and I was like, "Hey, it's Aunt Barbie," and his friend was like, "You have an aunt?" He was like, "No," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm married to your Uncle Ken." Oh, I forgot. Okay, so yeah. So now with the 4 younger ones, it's amazing how close we are, and that book was the bridge to bring it all together.
Yeah.
So
are you talking about the Aunt Barbie's Invisible Endless Owie? Is that the one? Yes. So I just posted a link to your Goodreads page, which has your books on there. So if anybody's interested in what books Barbie has written or wants to know more about any of these books, you're welcome to click through that link and find more information. Buy them from wherever you want. This is just an informational link.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, so, and then I saw that you had posted the I Am Breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And that reminds me, one of the best tools that a psychologist gave me when I became chronically ill and everything was crashing around me. I lost my house and my job and my marriage and my company and my ability to drive, and pretty much went from on top of the world, driving in private limousines, riding in private limousines and jets, to having nothing, going down to food stamps and not knowing what I was going to do or what I was going to have health-wise be the result. And he taught me that I am gifts, and to take inventory of who I am, not what I do, but who I am. And it was hard to get my list started, but he helped me get that first thing on my list. And then by the time I had a week, by the time I got into his office, I had about 50 I ams on my list. And then by the time I left his office, I had about 75, and now I have over 150. So when I am having a bad time, I go back to my list and read it and say, okay, I am bubbly and creative and mature and organized. And I go through my list and remind myself of all the things that make up who I am. And I may not be that thing right in that moment, but these are all inside of me. So reading your I Am Breathing that reminded me of the I Ams that
Yes.
I have on my list. And I still use that, over 20 years later, I use that as a coping mechanism for positive mental wellness.
Yeah. I love those little affirmations. So I have those on a little bot that spits them out every now and then. And it's just so nice, especially while you're streaming. Whenever you're doing something like this, it's constant. You're always on, you're always doing whatever it is, whether it's, doing the podcast or playing a game or whatever it is. And so it's just nice to have those little reminders in the chat. It's really good. I really enjoy that. One thing, the bots are good sometimes. This one is great.
Yes. I have a bot on Facebook because it doesn't let me see most of the messages. So once in a while, it'll kick a message through, but it'll tell me that I have messages. So-and-so is waiting for a response. So-and-so is waiting for a response. But it's a blank page, so I can't respond.
Oh.
But I could put a chat message on there. So it says, this, my messages on social media don't come through, so please email me. So
yeah,
a lot of people get a bot message that says that, and that's not very warm or inviting, but it does help. A bot can help. So
absolutely. So Auntie said, I'm grateful for this conversation and focus. I have lived with chronic illness and pain my whole life, and it's a special interest of mine, and an area where I'm beginning to specialize in with my private practice. Oh, that's awesome. I can't stay and listen to the whole convo tonight. Got to go, but you guys are awesome. Have a great night. Thank you so much for being here. Feel free to go back and watch after whenever you have time. You're welcome to come back. And if you have any questions for Barbie, I've already listed her socials and everything, but I can send them to you specifically if you want also. But thank you, and I appreciate it, and it's really exciting that you're specializing that in your private practice. That's really cool.
That is really cool. I love that. I love when a practitioner understands chronic pain, chronic illness, and especially if they're living with it themselves or they're a caregiver to someone directly, it really helps change how they approach the patient and help us get through those tougher times. So I really appreciate that she's carrying that into her work and helping plant seeds, because people need the trees that the fruit from the trees that they grow.
Absolutely. This is a little bit off topic, but it's become an audience favorite question. And that is, do you have a serial killer or true crime story that fascinates you?
I just like watching all of them.
Yes.
I can sleep with it on at night. Like most people probably have nightmares from watching like 48 Hours and True TV and all the crime stories and things that happen. But I've watched them over and over again. Like through the years, they come back on. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this girl. I wonder if there's an update. Did they find her? Or did they find her killer? So I really like them. And I like Dexter. I know that's not real.
Oh my gosh. But it's not real, but that was such a good show. Such a good show.
It is. In my degree, I did get a college degree in social psychology. So why individuals act a certain way in a group setting. And so watching Dexter is just like all the stuff from psych and sociology classes flying back into my mind of like, oh yeah, they did a good job portraying this or that type of thing. So, and my mom lived with multiple personality disorder. She passed away now, but anything like Sybil, the show Sybil is a psychological story about a woman who was abused and developed multiple, like 30-something personalities. My mom had 5 that we know of, and it's fascinating to me how the mind can protect you when you're physically going through something so traumatic. So definitely interested in anything that has to do with social psychology as well.
Yeah, I think the psychology behind the mind is what's really fascinating. And also just, it's almost the wanting to know, at least for me, the wanting to know what's out there so that it can decrease your fear of the unknown, kind of. So if you know the worst parts of humanity, then you can appreciate the best parts of humanity a little bit better. And then also It's like, okay, well, this is the absolute worst. Let's understand what happened to make this, to cause this, either in childhood, what happened to this person individually, or was there a break at some point? Was it caused by society? Like all of those things. I think it's just really, really fascinating. And I've lived through a lot in my life that also gives me a lot of empathy for people the families who go through some of these true crime and, those kinds of mysterious things. It's a lot. It's a lot to go through stuff like that.
Absolutely. And it does affect me. Like this past weekend, I was at an event and the home show exhibiting, talking about chronic pain and mental health and sharing with our community here in Arizona. And the next aisle over, 2 people got in a fight, and my husband ran towards it and was like checking it out, making sure are they safe? Do they need to be split apart? Like what's happening? I just turned into a little turtle and curled up in a ball and got underneath our exhibit table and was just like, oh my gosh, this is so terrifying. So it's interesting to see how some people run towards it and go, what's happening? And then me, I can watch it on TV and I can process it and talk about it. But when it's an actual scene happening in front of you that's negative or violent, I just turtle away and try to protect myself in that instance. Like some people ran towards the exits. My husband, when he was done watching, he went towards the parking lot, and I I'm like, he's not coming back to get me. Like, I'm stuck here under a table. What's happening? And then finally he called and he's like, where are you? I'm in the parking lot. I'm like, no, I'm still in the building underneath the table. Scared to death. So it is interesting to see, like, real life, what's happening in front of you, as well as hearing a real life story playback and then watching something like Dexter that's totally not real. So
Yes. Yeah.
It's all fascinating to me.
It is. It's really cool. So getting back to the topic tonight of chronic pain and kind of your experiences, can you share with us, give us an overview of what you faced that started your experiences with chronic pain?
My first experience with chronic pain was with endometriosis, which is a female condition where your uterus grows inside your body, but not actually in your uterus. And so most people shed their uterus, or not most people, women that have a uterus shed out, we call it a period every month. And when you have endometriosis, those uterine cells are growing in other parts of your body, usually in your abdomen. And for me, it did. And it was extremely painful. I didn't know what I was going through. I just knew I was having periods for days on end, months, weeks, months on end, bleeding and extreme pain. And started going to the doctor. They were like, until we give you this surgery where we go in and with a camera and look around, we can't really actually diagnose you. We can tell you we think it's endometriosis. So I went through surgeries, multiple laparoscopies through my belly button, and then I ended up getting diagnosed and going through full hysterectomy, so I wasn't able to have children. So my nephews and my niece mean everything because I can't have any kids of my own. And so that was my experience at first, but I was believed. I was believed that I was in pain, and it took a 3-year process to go through from the pain starting to getting treatments, trying shots, trying less invasive things, to going to a full hysterectomy. And then I was doing okay, and I was like, I conquered the world. And then I was in a minor car accident, and I just couldn't bounce back. Injuries that I had in gymnastics and cheerleading, I always got through them, got over them, got back out there and kept going. All of a sudden I couldn't. Something else was wrong. I felt this burning fire pain. The more I searched for answers, which I did incorrectly, the worse I got. And I would anything that a provider would say, try this, we'll see what happens, I would try it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it was contraindicated for reflex sympathetic dystrophy, which is a rare disease that I have. And I did not know that, so I was making myself worse and spreading it throughout my body, all the way to an organ involvement. I spent 7 years in a wheelchair, bedbound, and had to learn a whole new way of life, living, purpose. And that's kind of how I got into advocacy after, 50 surgeries, over $1 million in medical bills. It took me 42 doctors to get a proper diagnosis. I really had to learn the medical field inside and out and upside down, and I want to be able to share some of the tips and tools that I learned. That's why I started advocating, so other people didn't have to go through the challenges that I have. And 1 in 10 people live with a rare disease. 1 in 3 live with a chronic pain condition. So it's definitely affecting a large portion of society. If you're not physically feeling it, then you're helping somebody who's physically feeling it. And I want to be helpful for everybody that's involved in the process to help that patient live the best life they can and be as active as they can in society.
Yeah, I can't imagine, first of all, having endometriosis. That I have a friend who has endometriosis, and I'm in Texas, and notoriously women's health care here is awful. But she went for years and years and years, A, without being able to get a diagnosis because no one would believe her about her pain. And then B, with doctors refusing to give her a hysterectomy, even though she had kids, she was married, her husband was going to sign off on it. Like, all of the things that they say they require, she had lined up, and doctors were still refusing her care. And so I don't know. I know that people talk about a lot, women's healthcare being so bad in different parts of the country and all of the hoops that you have to jump through. But I know that it's real because I have someone who went through that. Fortunately for my hysterectomy, it was not because of endometriosis. I developed pelvic organ prolapse. And so my doctor was just like, I mean, that's the cure, is you have to get everything scooped out. Sorry. Like, that's it. And so it's one of those things that my experience was completely different because my doctor's the one who suggested it. And meanwhile, she's over here begging for it. And
right. And that's how it got to that. I got to that point basically of, I want to have a hysterectomy. This pain is too bad. I cannot live with all these symptoms that I'm going through. And I'm still trying to coach and live life. It was a 3-year process, but I was 26 years old, and they're saying, you'll be the youngest person at our hospital that's ever had a full hysterectomy due to endometriosis at 26. And they were like, are you sure that you want to not have kids or try to have kids? I'm like, yeah, no, like, I've already had a miscarriage. I don't want to go through what I'm going through. Let's just be done and get rid of the pain. Little did I know that pain wasn't as bad as the pain that I was going to face with RSD. And, maybe it was a way to prepare me that pain like that can exist and to be ready. But I wasn't ready for when it got worse. I wasn't ready. I had to learn a whole new vocabulary.
Right. And I know that women tend to minimize their pain. And you mentioned earlier that you kind of sit between, a 2 and a 3 on a normal day, and it can go up to a 9 or a 10 on a really bad day. But on a daily basis, when you were dealing with it at the beginning, what was your true pain level? And did you ever report something lower to a healthcare provider or to people around you?
I was at a 9-10 daily. I would go to coach practice. I couldn't even choreograph by that point. I would go to practice. I would lay on the ground. The team doctors and physical therapists that were there for the team would actually be working on me as the coach.
Oh my gosh.
I would have I'm Division 1A college level competitive cheerleading, team. I was top 5 in the country, and I couldn't even coach. I would leave practice and go to my office, and I would lock the door and sleep for as long as I could. And then if somebody knocked, I would pretend like I was awake doing work and go open the door and see what they needed. Mm-hmm. But I would literally lock my door because I could not function. And I was only sleeping for about 45 minutes, half an hour to 45 minutes at a time. But I was sleeping for a good 20 plus hours a day.
Wow.
Off and on, but not consecutive sleep, not dream REM sleep where you repair your body and mind. Mm-hmm. So it was really difficult. And I tried to hide it, but at the same time I was searching for care. And when I would go into the doctor's office, I would say my pain's a 9 or 10. I would be crying, and they would want to take care of my mental health first. And I was like, but I'm not here for my mental health. I'm here because I have physical pain that I did not have a month ago or, 2 years ago. I'm here, fix the pain. My mental health will come back once you fix the pain. And they were like, no, we have to concentrate on your mental health because we want you to be here tomorrow. Yeah. And so, but I would also, my pain would be so bad. I had chronic daily vomiting and passing out because the pain levels were so high. Now, I will say, as I was doing treatments that they thought would help, but didn't, like removing my rib, my pain scale changed. What I thought was a 10 in the beginning ended up being like a 5 over time. The pain increase got worse. The burning fire pain was bad, but then I started having electrical pain and bone pain and stabbing, shooting, cutting, searing pain. So I had way more adjectives to add to the list, and I wasn't even using adjectives. I was just crying, saying, fix me, help me.
Yeah. When
I started using adjectives, that's when I became my own advocate. And that's when I started getting the help and got a good diagnosis, and then spent 4 more years trying to get a good treatment for that diagnosis. But I spent 3 years probably wasting my time and my doctor's time because I wasn't giving them the right words to get the right help.
Yeah, I can imagine it's really hard to even come up with those words though when you're in that much pain. It's like it just hurts. It hurts.
Just hurt.
I'm not going to spend the energy to describe to you what kind of pain this is because it freaking hurts.
Yeah. And they're just like, oh, stop crying. Like, why are you crying? I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I worked my butt off since I can remember time. I have had to overcome learning disabilities and all kinds of physical challenges. And now I'm being stopped because of pain. Like this doesn't compute with me. Like I lost everything that I worked for. And so they didn't understand what I had lost, and I wasn't giving them the right adjectives to get the help that I needed when it came to pain. So learning that in that 3-year process was very important, and I wish that I had done that sooner. And when I started going in with adjectives, that's when I started getting help. Adjectives are your friend.
Yeah. So did you go in with these adjectives to kind of challenge your healthcare providers and say, like, it's real pain, this is the kind of pain? And did that change how they treated you in the moment? Not just like the treatments for you, but how they treated you in that moment?
What they could offer me. When I started talking about this burning fire pain, the treatments got more specific. And we got to have more in-depth conversations and things that I had to learn on my own, like I used an arm pillow. I had a shoulder surgery, and I got a pillow in the surgery that I had to use, an abduction pillow. I continued to use it even after the surgery because the pain was so bad and my shoulder felt so heavy that I used that pillow. The doctor didn't teach me that. It was, what do I need to do to be able to live more life? And I call it, in cheerleading, my coaches would say, no deposit, no return. What you put in is what you get out. Just like a bank, you put money into the bank and that's the money you can take out. Your money can earn interest. When you have a chronic illness, it's all about your energy and your energy pennies. And you only get a certain number of a day. And so you have to learn how to spend them. And so I had to go through that process and went in with the right adjectives. It saved me pennies. And I got more options that were directly related to what I was going through. And it led to a diagnosis, a proper diagnosis.
Yeah.
I got a lot of incorrect diagnoses as well. But once I had the right diagnosis, I started getting better treatment. I had those adjectives that got that correct diagnosis. And that is when speaking up for myself and speaking back. A lot of times I wouldn't even say, and I would just be crying and I wouldn't have the words. So it wasn't that I held back on purpose. It was that I didn't have the words to have the conversation. And the doctors, the nurses, the physical therapists didn't have the time to help me find the right words.
Right.
It was something that I had to figure out over time. But once I did, they were appreciative. And even now, my primary care doctor says, I created a one sheet and I go in with the questions that I come up with throughout the month. They're all written down. So as I think of the question, I write it down. So by the time I get to his office and I walk in and it's like a vortex and you forget everything, I go in with that one pager. It talks about what medications I'm on, which ones I had a problem with, questions I have, any recent treatments, what helps my pain, what hurts my pain, or, makes me feel worse. All of that, I put it onto one page and I go in, and my doctor absolutely loves it, and he's been able to help other patients because of the communication that him and I have come up with and developed to get the right care and to create a team to be the chief of staff. I don't just rely on the provider anymore. I am the chief of staff. This is my body, and I have the right to say, yes, I'm okay with trying this treatment, or no, I'm not okay with trying this treatment. What other options do you have? If I don't like that medication, or that medication made me feel a certain way, mentally, foggy, whatever it was, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. what else do you have? Let's have a better conversation. And he has grown as a provider for his other patients because of me holding him to the fire and saying, no, look, we're going to learn this together. We're going to do this as a team. And any other providers or specialists will come in and be a part of our team, or they won't be a specialist for me.
That's great. That's a really good partnership that you have. Yes. How long did
years, it didn't happen. It took years to build to that, but we got there.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask, is how long were you kind of going back and forth with people before you decided, I do need to be the chief of my own staff here and kind of implement that?
That, again, it was about the 3-year process of going through it. The 42nd doctor that I saw was a breast surgeon, a plastic surgeon. A neurologist told me, oh, I know what the problem is. He said, your boobs are too big. You need to get them cut off.
Oh, that'll solve everything.
It will solve everything. And so I already had my uterus out and ovary out. Like, what else? Just take the rest of the woman in me. And so I went to the plastic surgeon. I was going to do it because that's what the doctor said. Do this and you'll feel better. And I went, and the plastic surgeon examined me and said, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I do know that removing your breasts is not going to help.
Right.
And it may hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that to you. So what you should do is go see this pain specialist, and referred me to the 43rd doctor, who, before he saw me, I want every single record from the last 42 providers. And he took his time and he read every single record and then came in and examined me. And not like he had a couple of weeks to go through my records.
Absolutely.
And then he had me come into his office and he said, I think I know what it is and I want to do this test. And I said, well, I think I want to go and look up what you're asking me to do on Google and talk to other patients and ask questions and tell me about the entire process from start to finish. What am I facing? And he gave me as much time as I wanted. It took me about a week to research it and feel comfortable. And I went back in and had the procedure and came back, you're positive for RSD. And now we have a starting point. But wow. That was the first time I said, I need to go study. You just took this time to study me. I'm going to go study what you're asking me to do, because I just was doing everything they told me to do, and I was getting worse and worse and worse. And he was okay with it. And then he was the one who said, you need to see this primary doctor who didn't know anything about my rare disease or what I was going through, but he was willing to learn and grow and understand with me. And we came up with a system, and now he's able to help other people as well.
You're talking about the 42nd, 43rd doctor. How did you keep going through that many doctors? I mean, at some point, I feel like after the 10th doctor, I'd be like, I'm done.
Yeah, well, I had lost everything. So I was no longer afraid. When you're trying to grasp and hold on to everything, it's scary.
Absolutely.
And it's hard. And, I decided not to fight myself, and that I would not give up the things that I lost in my life. And there had to be answers. I just didn't get to the right person yet. And that's kind of in the process where I learned to be a mental cheerleader instead of a physical cheerleader. In cheerleading, we learn all the physical stuff, but along the way, we also learn resilience and responsibility and time management and organization and these other life skills that we don't really attribute to cheerleading. And I started tuning in and honing in on those other talents and skills instead of the physical aspects of performing. And that is how I got through. I became a cheerleader of hope instead of a physical cheerleader. And I realized that even some days my hope was as small as a flicker, but it was there. And some days it overran my cup, but I realized hope is invisible, but it's always there. And there's great reason for hope because there is help. You just have to reach out and seek it. And so I wasn't going to stop until I did find the hope, the help, and the tools that I needed. And if I couldn't find a tool, I invented it. And that's how I ended up with 9 books. Is because I had so much to share and so many tools that I came across or I had to invent or create from nothing and find a better way or break it down into smaller pieces that were manageable, and wanted other people to not have the same challenges that I faced.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the things that you're in this kind of, you've decided to be a mental cheerleader, you're still in what seems like never-ending pain. What were some of the things that you did or told yourself to find that hope again every day?
I started having conversations with my God and turning to religion. I know a lot of people turn away from religion when they face something so severe. For me, I became more religious, and I turned to prayer and mindfulness and realizing that there wasn't one thing that was going to be the magic pill. There was no magic pill, that I needed to find multiple treatments, modalities, tools through life to get through, and realizing that, like in football, there's, 10 plays that the players learn. Well, when it comes to health, what are the tools that I need to learn and take the time to stop and learn them? And when I felt overwhelmed, to break it down further instead of running away. Before I got sick, I was afraid of the Dr. Death Doom drop. Like, I could get thrown 20, 30 feet in a basket toss and do a flip and get caught and not be afraid. But this ride, it frightened me. It terrorized me. So I rode it 8 times in a row to try to get through the fear. And I kind of did that with chronic pain. I woke up in the morning and I'm like, well, I'm still here. There must be a reason why I'm still on earth. What's my purpose? Doctors would tell me, you will never be a cheerleader again. Get that out of your mind. Stop trying to do it. Move on. And that was soul crushing because I knew since I was 4, that's what my goal in life was. That was my purpose on earth. I just took that and I was like, I will be a cheerleader again. And I just found a different way to do it. And that's what I had to do. I had to find, well, you might only offer these treatments, but the doctor down the street offers different treatments. Mm-hmm. So you might not be the right doctor for me, and that's okay. And I had to become okay with walking out of a hospital if the hospital wasn't, or crawling at one point out of the hospital because I wasn't being served. I wasn't getting the care I needed. And as long as I wasn't going to die if I left, it just was pain. Or, that acute situation that I was in that brought me to the hospital, I could get to another hospital and they might have a treatment or a provider that do something that could help me. So I had to I had to move past my fear, through my fear. So just like I would ride Dr. Death's Doom Drop over and over again to try to get over that fear, I kind of did the same thing with my health and saying, okay, I'm afraid of this, but I'm going to go through it. And if I wake up the next morning, then I can still work towards fulfilling my purpose, whether it's laying in bed that day and thinking about accomplishing something or actually having the energy finish to get up and do something on my list. Mm-hmm. Whatever it was that I could do that day was okay enough.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to do. It's hard to convince yourself that that's something that you're capable of. Especially if you're already in pain.
Yes. And if I didn't wake up, what's the worst that can happen? I would ask myself that a lot. What's the worst that can happen? I don't wake up, I'm in heaven, and I'm completely healed of all things earthly.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing. So, but as long as I do wake up, I'm here on earth for a purpose. I will work to fulfill my purpose. And my purpose is to be a cheerleader of hope. I can do that in a million different ways. And now I know that.
Yeah. That's great. I want to go back. You, at the beginning, you talked about a doctor who kind of dismissed your pain and said, "I know why you're here," and you're not getting it. How do you handle it when people either don't believe you or dismiss your pain because they can't see it? How do you handle that?
I have learned not to care so much. I learned to say, okay, they might not understand this now, or I don't have the right words to communicate this, to build the bridge, to water the plant, the seed, to grow into a tree. I might not be able to handle it. They may, in their life, not be able to handle what I'm trying to tell them. And that's okay. I have to make a choice. Do I want to keep watering and try to grow this? Or do I want to say, okay, this isn't going to work, and walk away? And whatever I choose, I've become okay with it. But I have to choose. Is this serving my purpose? Is this help furthering me? Is this helping me accomplish my goals? Or is this dragging me backwards or away from my purpose and goals? And evaluate the situation as to, he wasn't the right doctor for me, and he just showed me. So instead of trying to hold on to it, which I did, in that moment, I over practice and time learned I don't have to hold on to that provider. Not every provider is right for me. A few months ago, earlier this year, I had a tumor grow in my throat, and the doctor that I loved that diagnosed me, he's like, look, you need a specialized surgery, and I've done it, but this other surgeon has done it 1,000 times more than I have. And you're a complicated case. It would be better to go to that doctor to have the surgery done. But I will make sure that you get the care that you need, the pain care and the pre and post surgical care that you need for your medical rare disease. But you need to have this other surgeon do it. Mm-hmm. But he warned me, he doesn't have a great bedside manner. And he was right. He was an excellent surgeon, and I went in and I did a consultation, and he learned me and I learned him, and he said, I wouldn't have stuck up for myself years ago, but this time I went in and I said, he said, these are the medications that we're going to give you. And I was like, well, no, I don't want those medications. I'm working that out with my actual doctor. You're here to do surgery. That's your part.
Yeah. You do the cutting.
My team. You do the cutting, you cut it out, and do what you need to do, but that's your part. And then I'm not going to have a fight with you about the medications that you want to give me, because I'm not going to take them. He actually did even order them, sent an order to Walgreens to have me go pick up of multiple medications, which I said, do not order them because I am not picking them up. He ordered them anyway. But when I got to the actual surgery, the anesthesiologist I said, I'm not talking medications with the surgeon. I need to speak to the anesthesiologist. And usually when you go in for surgery, the anesthesiologist doesn't meet you until right before you go in. You don't even usually learn their name. But I knew that I needed more time, and I went in and said, they assigned the anesthesiologist the night before. So I sent the doctor, the anesthesiologist, notes the night before. And then the next morning, she's like, this is the medications we're going to give you. And I said, no, it's not. And I presented her a book as to why not. And she said, well, this is what we do. And I said, no, I had breast cancer and I had my lumpectomy at this hospital. And so you're lying to me. And I called her out on her lie. And she said, hold on, I'll prove it to you. And she pulled up my medical records for that hospital and realized I knew what I was talking about. And then took a look at my book and said, okay, I'm going to do what you want. And, had she said no, I would have said, I cancel surgery. But instead, I just said, no, I'm not going to take, this is what we do for an answer. I'm going to take, this is what I need, and I will provide that for you. Or I'm going to cancel surgery this morning. And having that conversation and knowing I needed extra time, I got to the hospital early and got prepared for that to know I'm going to be facing this. I'm going to be the chief of staff, and I'm going to coordinate this surgery. I'm not going to let them do something to me that I'm not okay with. And so that's how I handle it now. And back in the day, they were like, you need surgery or you're going to die. And I didn't even ask a question. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to die. Take out my rib. Well, it was the exact wrong thing to do, but I didn't even ask. So now I know better. And now I bring up questions and ask and have that conversation and give myself the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important to ask questions. Like I can't stress that enough. I have not seen 43 doctors, but I can't stress hard enough how important it is to ask questions about procedures you're going to have, about medications they're trying to get you to take, about different providers. And we talk about this all the time here. As far as like your mental health provider, you can fire them. If they're not suiting your purposes, you can fire them. It goes the same for your physical doctors. Like if your general practitioner is not doing what you want, they're not treating you the way that you want, you don't like their bedside manner even, that's a valid reason to find another doctor. Like if anything doesn't feel right, you can fire them, you can find another one. Absolutely.
Yes. And like you said, it can work in mental health as well. Don't be afraid to say, look, I'm not connecting with you, or I don't feel comfortable enough to share what I need to share. Or don't even have to give them a reason. You can say, I'm done. Not give a reason if you're not comfortable giving a reason, and find somebody else that you're okay with. And that is really important to do. Stand up for yourself and be the leader of your medical team, of all aspects of all providers in your medical team.
Yeah. Do you recommend when you are facing something that you're not sure either what it is, you don't have a diagnosis yet, or you're just in pain and you know what it is, like endometriosis or something like that, do you recommend trying holistic pain control and working with your doctor on those kind of symptom relief methods?
Absolutely. Like I said before, there is no magic cure pill.
Yeah.
You need to use a wide variety, and even there'll be something that I'm like, they'll say, this is a tool you can use. You can have this thing implanted in your body. And I say, it's on my table. I'll consider it. I'll research it. I'll look it up. But if I'm not comfortable with it, it's the last thing at the end of the table. And, it might come after death. I'm not okay with it. But it's still on the table and I consider it. But anything non-invasive that you can do for treatment, so important, especially when you live with a rare disease or a chronic disease. So important to do non-invasive options first and realize that there's not one thing. Even if you're saying, I'm only going to do holistic things, you can add, 5 or 10 holistic things into your regimen. I use VR therapy, and I have microlepsy. I have a type of epilepsy, so I have to be careful about watching certain videos or putting a VR on my eyes that I'm like in this world, that there's flashing lights or certain patterns. So my husband and I actually created videos that I can watch, like going through an aquarium and those types of things that I know that they're safe to watch, and I can go into my own world in that VR to participate in holistically, getting through those worst moments. I do things that visualize. When I have a migraine, I visualize my massaging my skull in between my brain and my skull. I visualize massaging slowly through the areas in my brain that are going through the migraine. I use blackout curtains. I'm not afraid to wear sunglasses during the day out in public. If I am having light sensitivities, I put those dark sunglasses on that help protect my brain from going into a seizure or having a worse migraine or vomiting from the migraine. So it's definitely important to use those tools in your life. And I'll say, I have a friend, she's still my friend, but she was going to a friend's graduation. Her daughter was graduating. Her friend's daughter was graduating. She's in the car and she said, can you not use your walker because it causes people to give you attention, and this is my daughter's day. And my friend said, she felt so much guilt that she left the walker in the car, and she got from parking to the building, and her friend said, see, aren't you glad you didn't use it? You didn't need it. Don't give in to that pressure and that guilt. If you have a tool that gives you more energy to participate, use the tool. Don't be guilted out of it. She was not able to walk after the event. She was not able to walk back to the vehicle and get in the vehicle. They had to come pick her up. But she forsaked her own comfort and tool. It's a tool that you can use in life. If it gives you more life, don't feel guilt for using it. Don't be guilted by somebody else for using that tool. If you need it, use it and extend your day. If you can if someone invites you to a party and you can go for 5 minutes, it's better than not going at all and having you there for 5 minutes is worth more than you not going at all. But if you can't go at all, don't have guilt for not being able to go at all. Give yourself that space to let go and say, man, I really wish I could be there. Let the person know, I really wish I could be there. Today was not my day. This moment was not my moment. I couldn't make it. But I did want to be there, and I did think of you during this time. And, do what you can do in any situation. Use whatever tool you have available.
Mm-hmm. You have to extend that grace to yourself to say, I'm not up for this, or I'm not up for doing this without this thing that helps me do this, or whatever it is. You have to extend that grace to yourself, because otherwise it's just, the world is a sad place if you're just walking around feeling guilty about every little thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We've talked about it a little bit already, but chronic pain can add a huge emotional drain and can easily worsen things like depression or anxiety or other mood disorders. Did you see, and you talked about your providers mentioning, mental health care. Did you see a mental health care provider to, help you with anything?
I absolutely did, especially in the beginning as my life crumbled around me. I was not handling life well mentally, and I was trying to hold on to everything. And the more I held on, the worse I got physically, the worse I got mentally. So I saw a psychiatrist and a counselor and went to group counseling and was trying to, again, use any tool that I could. I was diagnosed with situational depression. Like they said, anybody in this situation that's lost what you've lost would feel a depression and anxiety. I also have anxiety because the reflex sympathetic dystrophy affects a certain part of my brain, which increases the fight-flight system, and that causes anxiety. So I have anxiety from that. And then in 2015, I lost my last living grandparent, my mother, and then in 2016, I lost my father. So I'm all of a sudden the third oldest person in my family. And ever since losing my father, the anxiety has been off the chart. And especially when it comes to phone calls, I do so much better live video or anything that's not on a phone. I can text, but my brother called me to tell me about my dad passing away in the middle of the night. And so just talking on the phone gives me anxiety. So I've gone to counseling to talk about that and try to work through, the stress and anxiety and depression of losing so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think,
and it has helped. And I do realize I got to have life experiences that a lot of people don't get to have. And other people have different life experiences that I don't get to have. But nobody can take away anything that I did get to do. And I still have those memories. And as my dad told me, at 50, you will not be doing back handsprings. And I said, yes, I will, Dad. Well, he was right. But I still will be a cheerleader. Whether I can do a back handspring or not.
Yeah. And I know that chronic pain can affect your emotional state, and your emotional state can affect your chronic pain too. Did you find that it's kind of a give and take, both two-way street?
Yes. When I am in stress, when I have high stress, my pain is worse. When I'm in high stress, we do a yearly event called the International Pain Summit. In every November, we have a whole month long of activities.
November.
Instead of November. And for I've had shingles five times in the last 4 years, just from the stress of the pandemic and living with chronic illnesses and putting these events together and wanting them to be perfect when life's not perfect. We have to be able to adjust. And I know this and I go into it, but then I sit there and go, oh my gosh, it's not perfect on the day of. And I getting so stressed out, the shingles come physically just from the mental stress of wanting to be perfect. So it is something that I consciously have to be aware of saying, okay, what's backup B, C, D, and E so that no matter what happens, I can fix it. But as we know, you can have the whole alphabet planned out and still something happens that you didn't plan for.
Yes.
And so you just have to find a way through it. My body's like shingles.
I know. My stress will physically manifest either in my eyelid twitching constantly, or lately my thumb will twitch right here, like this tendon right here will twitch really bad, or I'll get little bitty bumps on my hands. And that hasn't happened in a long time, but when I was married before I got divorced, it was hilarious because any marital related stress would literally manifest on my ring finger. And my wedding ring would be so, like, all the bumps would be clustered around my wedding ring. And so I'd have to take it off. And it's like, until that stress resolved, I couldn't put it back on. So it's interesting how your body just manifests that kind of stuff. Because, boy, sometimes it's spot on.
It produces chemicals that are like, something's wrong, or shingles, that... I when I was coaching, I had a student athlete develop shingles, and she was the team captain. And I wish I knew then what I know now about shingles, and even coaching in general. I wasn't a bad coach. We were in the top 5 in the country. I was a pretty good coach until I got ill. But if I went back and coached now, I would be a totally different coach and so much more understanding. But I did what my coaches taught me. Get back out there, tape up your ankle. We need you out there. Do what you need to do for the whole group. Now, if I went back and coached, I would say, let's make sure each of us is as strong as we each individually could be. So if you're going through stress or mental health or physical challenges, let's talk about it. Let's get through it. Let's get you the resources. And, we had them. But I wish I would have stressed them more and made sure that the individual athletes were doing better than they were.
Yeah.
And if you're a coach listening, I hope that you do that for your athletes now.
Yeah.
Your team will function better if you pay attention to all the aspects of each individual and make them as strong as they can be, and then they can pour that back into the team.
Yes. My dad used to, probably still does, but he used to always say, the team is only as strong as its weakest player, so you gotta not be the weakest player, is what he was trying to tell me.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's true, but every person on the team has a different talent and strength.
Yep.
If you find out what each person's talent and strength is, you can build your routines around those talents and strengths.
Yes.
And then the team is stronger.
Yeah, that it is worth noting. It is worth noting, like, that was when I was a forward. I was playing soccer. That was when I was a forward. As soon as I moved back to defender, like, I was good. I was the best.
Exactly.
Like, that's the thing, is that I was just in a position that I wasn't the best at. And as soon as I got into a position that I was better at, it was like I was solid. So...
Absolutely. And I remember in high school, my high school cheer coach for picture day, she would have the people who are normally at the top of the pyramid be like the candy, the arm piece on the end that just like you stand with your feet apart and your fist up in the air, like doing a motion or something, being the pretty girl on the end. And she would have the people who were normally bases be the tops, and then the people who were spotters be the bases. So she would move everybody into different positions for that yearbook picture. And so when you go and look at it, you're like, well, all the games, I was at the top of the pyramid. But when you go through the yearbook and look back, she showed us like, hey, there's many different positions. Find where your strengths are. I think it was a life lessons that she was trying to teach us that, you know, you're going to have a lot of pictures from games where you're at the top. You don't need to be at the top in the yearbook too. And figure out what your talents are. If you're the cornerback or the quarterback, you know, you might be better in offense or defense. Find out where you are the best to serve the team. And I would also, as a coach, say, give them room to do some different things. You know, like we had a Mission Impossible night. And so I said, every time out we have, instead of going out and performing a dance routine or a pyramid, we're going to do something that you would think is impossible. So one guy, he realized his talent was like being able to flip, like do a back flip over like a 6-foot area. And normally on a backflip, you want to go straight up, straight down. You don't want to have emotion in it. But he proved to me that he could do a 6-foot backflip. So I let 3 people lay down on the ground, and he backflipped over as a Mission Impossible. Backflipped over 3 people. He had to show off a special talent that he had that normally gets showcased. So things like that. We each person was like, Coach, I have this talent, or I can sing. Okay, so we're gonna have the cheerleaders sing the national anthem for the game. So we had a few of the cheerleaders that could sing as a talent, showcase it in a different way. So we kind of added that in and show like, hey, we have other tools, things that we can bring out and showcase. Do that in your regular life. Challenge yourself to use some of those things that you don't normally do in your regular life, and have that Mission Impossible moment where you get to go, hey, I can do this too.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool thing. And it's something that you have to take a self-evaluation a little bit and try some stuff out and see what works for you.
Absolutely. And one of the things, when I was back in high school, we were mad at our coach one day, and we were sitting out in the hall having a little powwow, just the team members, and the coaches were in the other room, and we were like, stress. And we started going around the circle and saying, what can you do that's different? Like, each person, like a girl could turn her hand backwards. She probably has EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but we didn't know what that was at the time. But, you know, people were doing different things, showcasing their little talents. And I was like, I want to do something that's totally different than anybody else here. And I was like, I can stick my fist in my mouth. I don't know how I came up with that or what, but I got creative. They're like, no, you can't. I said, yes, I can. And I did it. And then I realized I can actually stick my fist in my mouth. And so I ended up being on America's Funniest People, the TV show back in the 80s, or it was like the early 90s when it aired, based on something that was like, I want to, you know, show a talent or do something different, think outside the box. Challenge yourself for those moments. If you've been doing the exact same pain care or mental health care for 5 years, challenge yourself to try something different. Add a new tool. Try out a new tool and see if you can add it in. And you know, see what you can do. What is your special hidden talents? Get creative.
Yeah. Bite said my special talent these days is that I can sleep normally and wake up with my back jacked up. I mean, I can also do that. It's unfortunate. I'm like, I slept the exact same way with all the pillows that I normally sleep with, and now for some reason, the lower left half of my back is just incredibly sore.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but hey, that's a talent, and not everybody can do that. Some people can sleep like a pretzel position and wake up just totally fine.
That's her kid.
A talent.
Bite Mark's kid can do that. That's how he sleeps. It's just like head touching back. It looks broken and is perfectly fine.
Exactly. My sister can, even now at 50, well, now she just turned, she's about to turn 51, but she can lay down on her stomach and put her feet to her head and touch them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that's a talent.
Yep. Yep. Bite said, I can lick my elbow.
Yeah, well, you're one in a trillion. No.
Yes, I cannot. I can't
At
do
least
it.
one in a million. I can't even get my elbow near my face,
No.
but I can touch my tongue to my nose.
Yes. Yep.
Most people can't do that. So, but yeah, find your things that help you mentally. Like just probably sitting here doing that now, you guys are smiling and coming up with some positive mental health moments. So come up, be creative and check yourself, check your boundaries. A lot of times I put boundaries on myself, and then I have those mental health moments where I say, okay, where can I push myself? Let's see what I can do. And challenge myself to not do the same thing for 5 years straight. But, I might try something and go, yep, that wasn't for me, but I tried it,
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, what were some of your favorite psychological exercises or tools that you do use, that you did learn? What are some of the things that have stuck with you?
Well, the I am gifts,
Yes.
Those have helped me a lot. The energy penny principle of realizing I only have this many energy pennies. How do I want to spend them today? And not feeling a guilt about doing those. The VR has really been helpful. Mm-hmm. Doing things with my husband to keep our relationship strong. So he likes to play video games. I am not so good at video games. Nintendo Wii has this soccer game, and they kick the ball at you, and you're supposed to hit the ball with your head. I can't hit any balls with my head. But every shoe that they throw at me hits me. Mm-hmm. Totally opposite. But I still play on purpose to, one, bond with him, but two, improve my physical skills. Because real balls aren't actually hitting me.
Right.
Or shoes. The real shoes aren't actually hitting me. No balls touch me, no matter how hard I try. But also he likes those kind of video games that are like long-term games where you have a character and you go through the maze and you have these tests that you do throughout them, and it tells a story and you're kind of creating the story at the same time. I sit with him and watch him for hours and cheer him on through those games. Mm-hmm. And really, I don't have an interest in those, but I do it to be able to strengthen our relationship. Yeah. So that's kind of a mental mindfulness that I go through to cheer him on for cheering me on in my worst moments. Mm-hmm. Doing the heating blankets and the blackout curtains and the sunglasses. Finding things that are necessary for me. I like using paper plates and solo cups to eat dinner on, well, all my meals on. And people are like, paper plates, I'm like, you don't understand. I've dropped so many plates and glasses that have broken over the years that I don't feel guilty. If you want to eat off a regular plate in my house, I have regular plates, but I'm going to eat off a paper plate. Would you like to eat off a paper plate too? Giving yourself that ability to say, I don't have to go with the crowd. Mm-hmm. It helps me physically, but it also helps me mentally to do stuff like that. Yeah. I constantly try to push myself to come up with time-saving, energy-saving tools. Being organized, it takes a moment to get organized, but once you're organized, it is easier to stay organized, which gets you better care and better life moments. When you have that oasis next to your bed and you're having a migraine moment or a high pain moment, having that oasis right there of tools that you can use is really important. So I have my oasis next to the bed, which helps me when I'm like, oh, I should be up physically doing this. I don't have to. I can sit next to my bed and I have a pad and paper and I can write down a few notes of, when I feel better, I can do these things and not forget them because I'm having a bad moment. Those types of things. Really concentrate on sleeping better. I've tried a lot of things to get better sleep. And I do find the better sleep you can get, especially if it's dream sleep, the better off I function in any moment. So I've tried things like medications, but there's a drink called Neuro. and they have a sleep version of that drink. And I said, like, well, they say it'll help. Well, it actually did help me. So I use that instead of just always taking an Ambien to get some sleep, which I don't dream on Ambien. So some people do. So I don't get as good of a sleep as drinking a drink called Drink Neuro, or Sleep Neuro, that helps me. But they also have like Energy Neuro and other different drinks that are chemically like combined. So they might have cranberry juice in it to help with kidney function or sleep function. Like they have different all natural ingredients that can help you through different aspects of your life. So
I've got one for immune
boosting. Yes.
The Bliss one. Oh man, these are great.
Yeah. The Bliss helps you with stress. So and it's really tasty. That it comes in a blue bottle. So the sleep one is orange bottle, and the Bliss is a blue bottle. And I love both of those. The red one I think is Energy Neuro. So you're supposed to
Sonic,
more like
Energy
Sonic,
Refresh
like
in a red bottle.
That's cool. I don't like that one as much. I don't like the flavor as much, and I don't like hyping my energy level. I'm like, this is my energy, and I have chronic fatigue. Pain can drain you. Not getting the right sleep can drain you. So if I can work on some of the other aspects, I've learned that I don't want to take a energy booster to get the proper energy. I want to take better sleep. I want to get better sleep.
Totally
to get good energy. It's more like it's like a clean fuel versus a dirty fuel. Putting a gas in your car, putting energy in your body. For me, getting a more holistic, healthy form in one area can help me in another area versus giving an artificial boost in an area. But if that's what it takes to get you through, you need a coffee. I don't drink coffee. If you need a coffee in the morning and that gets you through your day and gets you the jump start you need, then use that tool. Don't take guilt for me for wanting to drink coffee.
Oh, I won't change. I won't change my coffee drinking habits. I know what works for me.
Absolutely. Do what you need to do.
Yes.
Find your tools. And then don't feel guilt for having those tools and using them.
Yeah. And don't feel bad if drinking coffee works for me and it doesn't work for you, that's okay. What works for you doesn't have to be what works for me. Like, don't feel guilty that it's not the same or that you're not getting the same benefit from something as someone else. Maybe you hate meditating like I do, but you love coloring, and so that works for you. Like, it's okay that it's not the same. It doesn't have to be cookie cutter.
Right. And I love coloring. It's a good mindful activity. I used to do quilting, but it hurts my hands so bad. I'm afraid that when I'm pushing the material through, that I'm going to hit myself with the needle. But I do quilt. We have a quilt project, so I have helped on creating some of the quilt panels. But I don't do it as much as I used to do because of the physical pain. But fine, if that's something that you can do, start quilting. If coloring, I can take somebody else's picture and color it in, but don't ask me to draw a dog. You're not going to be able to recognize that it's a dog. So things like that. Find your tools.
Absolutely.
And you can listen to what other people's tools are, but don't feel bad if your tools are different. You're an individual. You're human. Find what works for you. We're all different for a reason. And our talents help us fulfill our purpose here on earth. So our talents are all different, and the gifts that we have are different. Use the ones that you have and find a way to create tools that help you fulfill your purpose.
What's something you wish that everyone would do differently that would support those who live with chronic pain?
I wish that people would understand if we're in a community together, it's like a puzzle. All the pieces don't connect to each other, but we all connect to make a big picture. So don't, if you find yourself at the wrong doctor, well, that doctor's part of the pain community, or that industry, that tool. It's all part of our community. So if it doesn't fit you, it doesn't mean that one of us doesn't belong in the community. It means that we just have a different way of approaching it, doing it, learning it, fulfilling it. And we all make up that picture. So be more open, tolerant, and accepting of what other people need. Just like if they say, I have pain, believe them. If they're a part of the community, know and understand that we all are going to do things a little bit different. And a puzzle piece might not fit your puzzle piece, but we might have a few puzzle pieces in between that interconnect, and we are connected through that to make a big picture. And remembering that be the best piece you can be to make that big picture the clearer and the clearest it can be.
Mm-hmm. I love the analogy of a puzzle.
Somebody, if you kick a piece out of the puzzle, or you lose a piece, it doesn't create a full picture.
We love puzzles in my family. Well, some of us love them, and some of us begrudgingly do them, even though they hate them. But I personally love puzzles, so I love that analogy. That's great.
I do too. And one of the physical therapy activities that I did, the physical therapist was like, get a puzzle and put it together, because it will help you be able to use your hands more. Because my hand was curled up in a ball and my arm was curled up. You couldn't really do that. So it was part of my physical therapy, putting puzzles together. And I graduated to impossible puzzles, where there's like 10 extra pieces, and there's no outside border.
Oh, there's no.
And so the first impossible puzzle I did was coffee beans. I don't drink coffee, but I made an impossible puzzle of coffee beans. And then I did one that was like jalapeno peppers. And I took pictures of them, and I tried to sell them in a yard sale. And when people realized that I did these as a physical therapy exercise to help me get the use of my hand back, nobody wanted to buy it. They're like, this is literally like, you need to I framed them, and I hung them in my own house for a while, but I felt like I needed to move on from these puzzles. Like, I had grown, and I was ready to, but they were art. So, and I took like 6 months to put that coffee puzzle together. I didn't want to just throw it away, but people didn't want to buy it, because they're like, this is your art that you created. And so I did have trouble selling it. Selling them, because people were like, no, you're supposed to keep that. I'm like, but for how long? Like, I can't have this when I'm 100 years old. It's meant to be shared. I completed two impossible puzzles. Like, enjoy it in the art of the impossible puzzle.
So it's one that's called Impossibles. That's what it's called, Impossibles?
That is what it's called, yep.
The only puzzle with no edges and 5 extra pieces. That's awful.
Oh, I did 10 extra pieces.
That's terrible. That's a terrible thing.
So when I framed it, I put the extra pieces around the picture.
Yeah.
Around the outer edge.
I would too. I mean, this is crazy. That's crazy.
It takes a long time to do those impossible puzzles. The second one got faster for me.
Yeah.
But when you're doing something like all coffee beans with some coffee cups sitting on them, it's like, whoa. Like, it's you feel like it's impossible, but you just have to sit there and work at it. And it also teaches you patience.
Yes. Yep. So I need to buy one of these for our next family get together. So everyone can hate me.
for like a family project or activity, it just know it could take you months.
Yes. I can imagine.
With that. Yeah. One of my favorite books, it took me about 6 months to read that book as well. There's small type, 1,000 pages, and it took a while to read.
But what book was it?
It was called Atlas Shrugged.
Oh yeah.
And I like the psychological aspect of the book. So like you can read it and go, oh, this is like a really political book. to me, my book is, I wrote notes throughout the book. I highlighted it. I was like, I want to remember this life lesson. But it's that book taught me, because when I got sick, I lost so many friends who didn't understand, like, you were okay yesterday, why are you not okay today? And that book taught me the life lessons of getting along with anybody, even if you don't agree with them. Like, it literally gives you scenarios of how to handle a situation and how you could have handled it better, and through storytelling. And I just love that. I just love that book, and I refer back to it often for my own life lessons.
Yeah.
It is a very long read.
Yes.
If you got a long car ride, get the disc or tape version and pop it in.
If you can do audiobooks, do audiobooks. I can't do audiobooks. I don't listen. Okay. I'll start it and I'll just it'll start and I'll just be like, okay, it started, and then I will stop listening. It's like when you're in the car. Well, yeah, it's like when you're in the car and you're like, okay, I'm listening for traffic because I'm about to be going somewhere. And I used to do this all the time. Before Google Maps was really a thing where it updated you on the traffic and stuff, I would listen so hard to AM radio 1080 because they had traffic on the 8s. Every 10 minutes, you get traffic on the 8s. And so I would listen. I'd be like, okay, traffic. I got to figure out which way I'm going to go home. They would immediately say, okay, it's time for traffic on the 8th. And I'd be like, great, the traffic report, and stop listening.
Yeah.
And they would get through the whole traffic report, and I'd be like, oh, God, I stopped listening. I don't know what they said. I do the same thing with audiobooks. So I have to read physical books.
And that's always, find your tool. Do what works for you. I have a family member that is going through the same rare disease I have, and I'm like, I literally wrote 9 books. Like, these are life lessons that are in my books. His wife was an editor on one of the books. I'm like, literally, like, legit, you should know this information. He's like, Barby, I can't read it. Like, my pain increases trying to read text. He's like, if you could create an audio version.
Oh, yeah.
I would love that. And I was like, well, with my learning disability, you don't want to hear me read. Like, I tried to read my Aunt Barbie's Invisible Endless Owie to my nephew, and he was correcting me on the words in a children's book that I wrote.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't want me to read my adult books out loud. In my head, it sounds so smooth and easy. Coming out of my mouth after reading it, not so much.
Yeah.
So I would have to get somebody else to do the audio version for me.
Yeah.
But it has been brought to my attention that I need to do those in audiobooks.
Mm-hmm. There's a great website called Fiverr if you haven't ever used Fiverr before. But you can find people to do things like that. You can find people to do voiceovers if you want. And you just you pay them a gig fee, and then they do the voiceover. So, and you can look at all the samples of their work and stuff, or listen to the samples of their work and stuff. So it's a really good. I like their website. But
I'm gonna write that down.
It's a good one. It's a good website. Lots of Fiverr, 2 R's on the end. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I will check that out.
It might help. I mean, if that's really something that you're interested in getting done, it's a good website to start with, for sure. Yeah.
Well, when my own brother can't read my book,
right?
It makes it
could be a Christmas present. Yeah, you could make that be his Christmas present for
Yeah, but it can also help how many other people?
Yes, absolutely.
I was a few weeks ago with a blind presenter. Mm-hmm. I was just fascinated. I was like, wow, he's up there talking with no notes.
Yep.
And he's using a clicker going through pictures and telling you what's in the pictures. I'm like, legit, how does he know that he's on the right slide? Like, this is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
But he was like, hey, I'm blind. When I'm on Instagram, if you don't fill in the alt text, I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yep.
And so all I get is a caption or some hashtags, and I try to paint my own mental picture, but I don't even know if I'm mentally picturing the right thing. So if you could say, like, picture of a sunset with the woman on a beach, and she's wearing a green dress, and she's to the left, and her dog's running over on the right catching a frisbee.
Yeah.
Explain it, I can visualize it as a blind person. I was like, oh wow, that's what alt text is for. You know, it's with you know, a person who has trouble reading a book because of any reason, whether it's a disability, learning disability like me, or it causes migraines or headaches or increase in pain. A audio book would probably be a great idea.
Absolutely. If you weren't doing what you do now, or if you had chosen a different path in life, what would you be doing instead?
Oh goodness. I like to my cell cores, I'm a cheerleader.
Yeah.
I would find a way. I went through that. I was a cheerleader and I couldn't be a cheerleader anymore, and I found a way to still be a cheerleader. I would still be a cheerleader. I would just find a whole new way. And,
Absolutely.
Invent one. I would invent one. So maybe I would be an inventor, because I would just invent a new way to be a cheerleader so that I could still be a cheerleader.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing what you really, truly were meant to do. That's great. That's fantastic.
Yes. And I know I know there's some people are like in college and they're like, I don't even know what my major should be, yet they're still trying to get through college, and that's okay. Like, I just was born knowing my purpose, but that's had to evolve. So keep searching for your purpose. Consider your talents and your gifts that you have in your life. And then, you know, test out a few things that you think are your purpose. And when it is your purpose, you'll know in your cells that it's your purpose. So keep moving towards it. Yep,
absolutely. Now, I know you said you're sensitive to moving lights, so I'm not going to turn this on, but I do have a magic wand. And so normally it flashes with different lights and stuff. So I'm just going to leave it off, but that's okay, because the powers are still going to work. So if you could wave this magic wand and eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory surrounding mental illness, disabilities, or talking about mental health and chronic pain, what would you eliminate? And we'll just go ahead and give this little wavy wave. And now you have the power.
Awesome. I would say that everybody would be believed when they report what they're going through.
Yes. Yep.
That could be a great ground point to start with, and from there we can build even further to get the care that we need.
That would solve so much.
It would.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the questions that I had for you tonight. So I'm going to open it up to you and just say if there's anything we didn't cover or anything that you want to talk about that you're working on or anything like that. And then, Chad, if you have anything to ask our guests, feel free to pop it into the chat and we'll wrap up here. So anything you want to talk about that we didn't cover?
We've covered so many different topics.
I know.
I love it. I love it. The only other thing, you know, when you are going through your challenges, remember to reach out and seek help. A lot of times in our society, we are taught, like, don't ask for help, don't speak up, don't speak out. Please speak up, speak out. And if that person tells you no, they have a boundary or they feel like they don't have the talent or skill that you're asking of them, take it personally. Know that there is somebody out there that can help you. You just didn't have the right person or tool in front of you. Don't stop. Keep going. You might feel like the score is 50-0, but if you can get 3 points on the board, it's still a win.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
So,
Baita, thank you so much for being here. I learned a lot, and I'll echo the same. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us, and look forward to posting all the links and everything that we've come up with here. Those will go onto the website here in the next couple days so that everybody has access to them. And thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Love it. Thank you. I'll try to find a picture of my impossible puzzles to share.
Yes.
As well.
Oh, please. Yes. And you just send those to me. I don't care where you send them. Email, Twitter, Discord, wherever. I will share them with the community so they can see them too. Absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I am excited that this was my first Twitch. And hope that that people watching in replay get something out of this as well. And feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Yep. All right, Chad, give me just a minute. Give me just a minute to disconnect with Barbie offline, and I will be back in just a little bit. Thank you so much again, Barbie. Really appreciate you.
What an enlightening and empowering conversation with Barby Ingle. I hope y'all found that as inspiring as I did. Remember, you don't have to face chronic pain or any mental health challenge on your own. There are communities like the Fox Fam and resources like those on tacosfallapart.com out there ready to support you. Whether you're dealing with your health or advocating for someone you care about, you have the power to become chief of staff of your own medical team, just like Barbie. If you enjoyed this episode and found value in our discussion, please do me a favor, share it with one person who might need to hear these words today. We're all in this together, and we can make a difference by being just a smidge more open about our own journeys. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a review. Your feedback truly means the world to me and helps me keep bringing you these important conversations. As we wrap up today's episode, remember, your journey is unique, your struggles are valid, and your strength is immeasurable. Keep shining, keep fighting, and keeping the incredible person I know you are. Thank you for joining me on Even Tacos Fall Apart. Until next time, take care and stay well.